vows and promises and contracts that we formed in our lives. And I think the most important contract is really, when you think about it, is marriage. So those who are, of course, married, or those who have not been married but have a commitment relationship, understand that really this is what it means to have a home in our community. And every time somebody gets married, we say, "Shetivnu bayit ne'eman b'Yisrael." May you build a respectful house in Israel. But ne'eman means loyal, to be loyal to the contract, to the vow that we made to each other. So a marriage is really a conversation, as our rabbis put it, between truth and peace. There's always something that the other person does that you say, you are incorrect, or of course you can point fingers and try to correct the other. But then we have that idea of peace. You know, a house has to have peace. What we say, shalom bayit. And this is really the most important value in Judaism. So this year I had several marriages and weddings that were in different places, and some, you know, when I traveled to Israel, my nephew was supposed to get married, but because of the situation, it was delayed. And then I was supposed to have officiate a wedding here, but because I went to Israel, I couldn't do it. But I did have a couple of people in our congregation who got married this year. And also I traveled to California for my cousin's wedding in June. And that was an experience because I took the train from New York to LA. I know a lot of people want to do it. Everybody said, I always want, well, then do it. I can just tell you one thing. It was an amazing experience. It was really one of the really profound experiences I've had, because really to see, I've crossed country several times, but by train is something else, because you really don't have to drive, and you sit in your sleeper or in the dining room, and you see the whole country passes by you. And it's incredible, because sometimes you're in people's backyards, sometimes you're in beautiful mountains and lakes, and it really is, you see the whole country. So I went to a wedding, and I was supposed to write to sign the ketubah. At my cousin, they had an officiating rabbi, but I was signing ketubah, and of course I was thinking about the whole time what I'm going to say before signing the ketubah. And really the ketubah is the marriage, right? It's the prenuptial agreement that protects the wife normally. But today, with many egalitarian services, it became that agreement that both couples sign and vow to each other. So as I was thinking about what it meant to make that vow, I was thinking, of course, in the Jewish way, that you can make a vow, you can get married, but you can also get divorced. You can break that vow somehow. Of course, you don't want to break the vow before you get divorced, but some people do that. But breaking that vow is really such an important, in our tradition, even if we break the vow, our rabbis tell us that really, you really never get divorced. And I see that definitely with people who have children and get divorced, and they really are never really separate from each other. So we have to take that very, very seriously. So at the signing of the ketubah, I said to the couple that, of course, you need to have love, and I wish you love, and I wish that you would respect each other. But this is what I learned from my rabbis, and when I first learned about it, I thought it doesn't really make sense, because love and respect really should supersede the other thing, which is commitment. Commitment. But more and more that I look at marriages and vows that people give to each other, I agree with that. I agree that the bottom line is the vow that we make, the commitment that you make to the relationship. Because without that commitment, love and respect and enjoyment, not going to hold. You need that something that binds us together. And tonight, when we say Kol Nidre, is reaffirming the vows that we took with God. There's a relationship here that our rabbis tell us it's like marriage between God and the Knesset Israel, the people of Israel, the assembly of Israel, is like marriage. And it's really interesting. When we come on Yom Kippur, we don't say, God, we love you. God, we respect you. We say that too, in different ways, but we say we're committed. There's the vow that put us together. On the way, on the train, one of the nice things about this experience, by the way, before I continue, you should totally do that. Take the train across country, but you have to know one thing. The food is great, the company is great, especially if you take a sleeper. They're very tiny, but it's enough. But just the one thing they never tell you is that those sleepers are not really for sleep. Because imagine they're on a train, after all. So the train rattles a lot and jumps and turns. So I really didn't sleep for 3 nights. But it was a great experience. So one of the benefits of taking the train is that you get to meet people that you would never meet otherwise. And through Colorado, basically 3 hours of ride through the mountains, I was sitting with an Amish guy, a young guy who just married. They have a young kid, and I guess there's a phenomenon like that. I don't know if you knew that. The Amish people, they go from, they could go even from the East Coast, but they came from the Midwest, and they travel all the way to California to go to Tijuana to have dental treatment. I guess, dentists, definitely New York, you need a mortgage. So they go all the way to California to go to Tijuana to do all their dental work and come back. It's very interesting. Families. So he was with his whole extended family, not just him. Very interesting phenomenon. And I learned also that they live totally off-grid. That's their thing. So it's an interesting concept. But what I learned from him is, when I was sitting with him, is that they have no concept of divorce. So it's not even, I asked him, is it like the Catholic Church, that at least you can get an annulment and somehow finagle divorce? But he said no, there's no divorce. And I said, what if it's an abusive relationship? What if it's really doesn't work? He said, we somehow make it work. We somehow work this through. So again, I think it's very radical. I don't think it'll work for us. I think we do need that exit clause. I think it's very important, even if spiritually, as I mentioned and as I see in life, you don't really always get divorced, but you need to have that idea of to be able to separate. So that ketubah that we sign is such an important document. And it's the same as the Kol Nidre tonight. Because what are we saying? We're saying, yes, we vow, we take commitment, but sometimes we can't abide by it. There are circumstances that we can't fulfill them. And we're sorry. we're not perfect. And we have to, so to speak, break our word and ask for forgiveness. So, whether you believe in the Amish way or the Jewish way, this is what we do tonight. I want to explain in the Torah. It says in Parashat Naso, where there's the idea of the high priest in the temple, that if a husband suspects his wife, right, he takes her they go to the high priest, and she has to drink the bitter water. And our Torah tells us, the rabbis tell us, that the water becomes bitter because there's this parasha that we read about the wayward wife or the suspected wife. The priest has to dip that ink into that water, and she drinks that. The one problem is that the name of God is written on that parchment, in that section. And that, of course, is something that's really forbidden, to erase the name of God. So the Midrash says that God loves the concept of Shlom Bayit, the peace in the house, so much that he allows us even to erase his name for that sake. If we have a dispute, we can even erase the name of God for that purpose. So, sometimes we can fudge the truth for the sake of peace, such as telling a bride she's beautiful, even if you don't think so. In that case, one must first recognize the truth, then immediately pursue peace. So we are committed in the relation. This is the tricky part. We're committed to the truth. You can't live without truth. Not, if your spouse or your partner, leaves the shoes in the middle of the living room, and you really don't like it, and this is a very mild example, but of course you should say something, because otherwise, it'll boil inside of you. So you have to say that. You have to recognize the truth. But then immediately, you have to switch. We have to switch in our minds. And it's very hard. And this is what we do on Yom Kippur. This is the forgiveness. This is the vow that keeps us together in relationship. Not because we're always in love with each other and always love what the other people do. As individuals or in marriage or in the Jewish community as a whole. But we have to immediately put the hat of peace on our head and on our heads and realize that this is really what God wants from us. And the prophet Zechariah tells us that these are the things that you are to do. So speak the truth. So we have to have the truth first to each other, and render true and sound judgment in your courts that are just and lead to peace. So which means that the whole process, the Jewish process of this commitment to each other, eventually the outcome has to result in peace. So then that means that the peace and the truth have to coexist. So what it means that truth and peace are on the two sides of the scale, and the real justice from a Jewish Torah perspective is the balance between the two. Marriage is like boarding a train ride across the country. It keeps swinging and bouncing, rattling and shaking while we try to enjoy the view and the company. Sometimes you have to get off the train, take a breather, but stay the course. As long as the conversation between the truth and peace is maintained, we will arrive at our destination, faithful and peaceful home. Amen.